A pall of gloom descends worldwide in March. For a while, light at the end of the tunnel seems an unlikely proposition. However, hope in incredibly difficult and testing times can come in unexpected ways. As the return of international cricket paves the way for an improbable IPL to be conducted smoothly in the UAE. Now, Team India is back on the cricket field after 269 days of forced hibernation. And so are crowds in a cricket stadium for the first time since the 7th of March. It's finally time for action as the marquee Australia versus India series commences down under.
Yes, indeed. Down Under, My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, and it's what we've been eagerly waiting for months and months and months. Yes, we've had a dose of cricket recently, but to be on an international stage is so different, and we are super excited. It's happening down under. It's happening in Sydney. It's India versus Australia. It's when there's a bit of a chill in the air in India and the heat is on in Australia in the southern hemisphere. What the fixture is, let's quickly remind you. Yes, it is. It's India versus Australia. But don't go by that photograph of Virat Kohli, because the other little treat for Indian fans, particularly if you're over the age of 30 perhaps, is that India will be sporting a retro jersey throwing back to 1992. But we'll talk more about that as we welcome our guests on the show. Zaheer Khan and Michael Vaughan. Time to say good morning to both of you. Back, Michael, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm great. It's a little bit earlier in the UK, but I'm wide awake. Looking forward to this one. Morning, Zach. How are you?
Morning, Michael. How are you doing?
Very good.
And how are you doing, Gautam?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I can see the settings in the UK are very different. It might be the middle of the night, but I think the enthusiasm for cricket in that part of the world, whether you're an expert or just someone waking up in whatever part of the UK to follow Team India in Australia, and of course to follow your great rival, the ODI, is absolutely wonderful. Just a quick reminder of the toss is that Team India have lost the toss and they will in fact be fielding first. So there was a feeling, win toss, bat first, and that's exactly what's happened. Runs on the board. Let me get your first reaction, Michael Vaughan, on that. For all the time that you spent down in Australia for white ball cricket, fair decision?
Yeah, I mean it's a two powerhouse cricketing nations. Sydney's a wonderful ground. I'm personally very excited for all of us in cricket, seeing cricket over here in the UK, obviously the IPL with no crowd, but now India versus Australia, there'll be some crowds in the fans in the ground in Sydney. So batting first generally is a good way to go. So I think Australia just got the noses in front by winning the toss and batting first.
Yes, Michael Vaughan briefly mentioned about crowds, and I think whether you talk about the retro jersey, return of cricket, Zaheer Khan, that is going to be one of the big factors. We've gone through an entire tournament in Dubai without crowd. Yes, it was a success because everyone was craving for cricket. Folks in the stands, even if it's 50%, that's a lot.
I'm sure everyone was looking forward to it. It was different experience playing without the crowd. But when the crowd support is there, the whole atmosphere really lifts up, and that really lifts up your energy as well. So that is something which all the players must be looking forward to, and feeling that normalcy again of going in the stadium and hearing and seeing people cheer them.
Yeah, interesting. Of course, we often talk about Indian teams going down under, being at a bit of a disadvantage, wondering what lies ahead. But Michael Vaughan, this is a very different set of circumstances where the Indian and Australia players have actually reached Australia at the same time, and the local players have had a longer quarantine period in a sense. So they've actually had less acclimatization to Australia than India have.
Yeah, Well, it's strange times. It's been a funny year for all of us, and in particular the players. I have a huge amount of admiration for all the players that have been playing this year, because the standard and quality that we've seen, whether it's been cricket here in the UK to the IPL in the UAE, the standard and the drama that they've produced has been magnificent. So because players play pretty much all the time, I'm not too sure they'll be that affected by their lack of preparation. They're professionals, and I'm pretty sure they'll put on a decent show. It's just exciting to see those fans back in the crowd. They'll create with 7 full, but they'll create an atmosphere, and I think the players will be absolutely delighted to have that buzz and energy from supporters back in the ground.
Yeah, the big talk, of course, was the playing 11s. It's the start of the series, so you're not really looking at who's been left out, who's been brought in, because this is a clean slate. You wipe off that whiteboard and get your preferred 11 to start the series. So let's go and reveal it all to you in terms of the India playing 11 first, and pretty much under expected lines. A lot of talk about Rohit Sharma. We'll come to that in a moment. But Shikhar Dhawan, Mayank Agarwal opening out there. Zaheer, just talking about Mayank Agarwal as an example, the last time he came to Australia, of course, was the great debut in the white jersey. But it'll be a big match for him, and all the form that he brings from the IPL.
He certainly will enjoy the Australian conditions for sure. He's someone who likes the ball to come onto the bat, enjoys that extra bounce as well. So that's something which he will be looking forward to playing under Australian conditions. He has made his debut in Australia, so that is something which will bring back those memories, those good times. Surely will inspire him to get into the groove leading up to the series and the test matches. So that's something which you'll surely look forward to. KL Rahul is someone who will be playing a different role again. The captain has been very vocal about him taking that responsibility with the gloves and batting in the middle order. So that's something which he has enjoyed. He has enjoyed that responsibility. So he'll also be looking forward to just cement that position for himself.
Flexibility, Michael Vaughan. That's the order of the day. We did make a little reference to another Rahul who did it in another era, but for KL Rahul, it's of course form, but it's adaptability from being that explosive starter at the top of the order in T20 cricket to batting at 5 in 50-over cricket.
Yeah, I mean, he's a class player, and he's adapted brilliantly. He can be at the top of the order. He's played nicely at number 5 because he's got the game, he's got the gift to just be able to play the pressure card nicely. There's his scores batting at number 5 in 2020. That tremendous 100 against New Zealand off 113 deliveries. He's a class act, and wherever you put KL Rahul in that top 5, he pretty much would guarantee consistent runs because he's such a good player. I always look at India and obviously the tremendous one-day side. I just feel that the batting depth is not quite long enough. When you think Jadeja comes in at number 7 and then it's down to the bowlers, that just relies, as it has been for such a long period of time, that top order, in particular the top 3, getting them off to real quality starts. And I think Australia will target that, knowing if they can get 2 or 3 early wickets, with that batting order not being so deep, it can be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, just a quick reminder there. As you may have noticed, KL Rahul is also our My 11 Circle trump card. And the reason we've put him there is because there are many people who select their My 11 Circle teams tend to want to say, okay, let me look at the batting order. 1, 2, 3 for Australia, 1, 2, 3 for India. Excellent. And then you start looking at the bowlers and all-rounders. Don't forget, even KL Rahul at number 5 can be very, very useful, which is why we've put him as a trump card rather than maybe an obvious choice for all of you. What about the Australian 11? That's also going to be something that Indian fans are going to be keeping a very sharp eye on to see who it is that they pick. And there's a couple of names in yellow there. Manas Labuschagne, Mitchell Starc will definitely be factors. And Aaron Finch, of course, slotting in as skipper with 2 very experienced players in Warner and Smith. So that top order going all the way down to very good on paper, eh?
Well, there are no surprises there for sure. I think that playing 11 pretty much picks themselves up there in that lineup. I'm looking forward to Mitchell Starc. How he goes about in this series, because he's someone who's definitely
going to be the center of discussion around batting out of the shot. We're finding ways of how to tackle
and the series leading up to Test matches, and he's a class bowler. So I always enjoy seeing him. So looking forward to what he brings to the table this series.
Yeah, but Michael, that 1, 2, 3, Warner, Smith, and Finch, that really looks ominous, doesn't it?
I think the last time India were down under, they beat them in the Test series and in the one-day series, but there was no Smith, there was no David Warner. Labuschagne's obviously arrived in the Australian side and produced some wonderful performances, and you just feel that Australia want a little bit of payback. When you think of 9 of that 11, other than Labuschagne and Mitchell Starc have been in quarantine because of their IPL performances and kind of been locked up in a hotel room. That's why we're kind of talking what kind of standard will we have today because of that quarantining period for a lot of the Australian players, where the Indian players have been out having a couple of practice games amongst themselves. I don't think it'll affect him. If anything, I mean, they've probably been quite bored. I mean, Zaheer have been in the bubble in the UAE with Mumbai, but the players, I'm sure, are itching to get out there and run around, because being sat in a hotel room by the hotel pool, whatever it is that they've been able to do, is pretty boring. So they'll be itching to get out there and play some cricket.
Absolutely, I think, Michael, the bubble tiredness is the new word. The fatigue around staying can get to you at times, because you do feel restricted at times. Can get suffocating, and also the quarantine doesn't really help. So I think that mental side of how one approaches the game is definitely going to be very vital in the series. 3 months. And then now getting into this series and talking about another couple of months, can get to some of the players as well.
Yeah, well, quarantine or not in the UAE, I think we officially haven't got a chance on the show itself to congratulate Zaheer Khan on that wonderful victory for Mumbai. So officially, I think from Michael, myself, and the whole team, well done, Zach.
Thank you so much. It's been a fantastic season. I think we went in the tournament as champions, and I think we played like champions. So that is something which was very fulfilling from the season. And the losses also, those 2 super overs was really the peak of the game for me. It was just the intensity which the team has shown, even in the losses. The margins were so narrow. As a coaching staff, you feel very satisfied when you see that your team so consistently doing well.
Yes, of course. But the big talking point really is the man who led the team to victory there. Played towards the end of the tournament. We expected to see him on a flight to Australia, but he wasn't. Michael Vaughan. That is going to be a sticky point for a lot of Indian fans. Before we come to you, Michael Vaughan, let's actually hear from the Indian skipper at the press conference talking about this rather contentious issue.
Before we had the selection meeting in Dubai, we got a mail 2 days before that, which said that he's unavailable for selection. He's picked up injury during the IPL. And it mentioned that there's a 2-week rest and rehab period. And it said that the pros and cons and the implications of the injury have been explained to him, and he understood that. So he was unavailable for selection, and that was the information we got on mail before the selection meeting. And after that, he played in the IPL, so we all thought that he's going to be on that flight to Australia, and which he wasn't. And we had no information whatsoever on the reason why he's not traveling with us. And after that, the only other information officially we have received on mail is that he's in the NC and he's been assessed, and that he'll be further assessed on 11 December. So from the time that the selection meeting happened to the IPL finishing and now, when this email came about his assessment at the NCA. There's been no information. There's been lack of clarity, and we've been playing the waiting game on this issue for a while now, which is not ideal at all. So yeah, it's been very confusing, and there's been a lot of uncertainty and lack of clarity around the situation.
Back to you, Bob.
You'd have to say a little bit disappointing, because I think the one thing you want, Zaheer, is communication. You know, between board, players, amongst themselves, etc.
Well, I think yes, you're right when it comes to communication. You know, clearly that one thing stands out, that communication is something which has been the talking point. But what I'd like to share with the viewers is that, like, the complexities of the scenario and the situation also. When you look at different formats of the game, the requirement around the fitness for different format is different as well. Like you're talking about T20 game, which goes on for about 3.5 hours. You have one days which goes on for about 7 hours, and test matches which you're talking about, say 30 to 40 hours of cricket. So every format requires different fitness demands, and I think in Rohit's case, the communication around that maybe could have been simple, or could have been the complex what we've been seeing so far. I think there are different variables. The management also can look at things differently, right? Like, if you want a certain player to play the match, at what level of fitness you want him to be, and what kind of role he's playing, and to this, the example which comes to my mind is Rahul Dravid's example. He had a shoulder issue which could have been managed conservatively, or he had to undergo surgery. Now the timelines are completely different for a different kind of approach. And as an athlete, as a cricketer, you don't want to miss games of cricket. So in Rahul Dravid's case, in ODIs he was wicket keeping, so you don't need to be throwing at any time in the game. And in test matches, he was fielding in the first slip most of the time. So if you ask at that stage Rahul Dravid to throw from the boundary line to prove his fitness, he was not fit and available. But if you looking at it, saying that, okay, fine, he's going to be fielding in the first slip and wicket keeping in the ODIs, we can manage him conservatively. He need not undergo surgery. And so every case is a different case, and you have to see how one can how determined one is to play, and that's something which Rohit showed as well. I think by physios, by medical staff, the whole timelines were completely different, but his body reacted completely differently, and he was fit and available, not maybe at the 100% fitness, but he was still able to do the job, and he got those 70 crucial runs in that final as well, lifting that trophy. So I think there are certain things to be looked upon for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'll come to you in a moment, Michael, but I just want to remind all our everyone who's listening in intently that yes, format may have changed, but the rules haven't. You still have to make sure you pick your teams. It's a little more complex in the 50-over format when you want to choose your My 11 Circle teams, but the way you get there is just as simple. You've got to download the app, get to the 11, get a captain, get a vice captain. That part doesn't change. The only difference is your thinking in terms of how you select the 11 that maybe changes slightly when it comes to picking an 11 for T20 cricket versus 50-over cricket. And that's what we've changed to. And that man has played a bit of 50-over cricket, sort of Ganguly. So he'll be challenging you once again. Michael, coming back to you on the topic. Zach obviously talking about someone who he's very close to, he spent an entire season with, but from someone afar, a neutral perspective, Michael Vaughan, not ideal to have this circumstances play out. And we also saw the latest press release at midnight from the BCCI.
No, but that tells me a little bit more that obviously if his father's not well, he needs to be at home looking after him. But a few weeks ago when the injury came about and the talk about Rohit, missing out on the Australian tour, what I didn't quite understand is because Rohit Sharma is such a world-class performer and one of the performers that you look at in this Indian side, for India to go to Australia and win, you really want that kind of quality in and around your team. And even if he's not playing, I believe Rohit Sharma would add something to that squad. So I didn't quite understand that. If he is testing out his fitness, why isn't he with the team? Why isn't he in Australia with the trainers, with the side, going about his exercises to see what kind of state his body's in? How fit could they get him to match kind of status whilst being in Australia? But just having him around with that experience and the way that he manages people is a wonderful captain, obviously, of Mumbai. I personally would have taken him to Australia if circumstances allowed in terms of what was happening in his family life, just to have him around that group of players, talking, working with the physios, working with the trainers, and that would have given him as good a chance of being able to play potentially some part in the Test series. By staying in India and them giving him that December the 11th kind of cut-off, I'd be surprised now if we see Rohit Sharma in Australia throughout the Test series, and it could only be for those last two Test matches anyway. I am surprised that they didn't have him over there just training with the team.
Yep, fair point. We also know Ridhiman Saha was another talking point, and he's actually been working with the team in Australia. Zaheer, just coming to you, not on this topic as well, because we can go on talking about this, obviously, just purely from the mental aspect of India. Michael briefly mentioned, not everyone likes to use the word revenge. Payback maybe is a little more polite. So Australia will be at full strength, looking to reverse everything there. India will want to keep their newfound love of Australia intact, won't they?
Well, this series is not going to be an easy one for sure. When you look at the balance of the two sides, from the Indian point of view, yes, in batting they will be a little conservative. That balance in batting is still looking a little bit thin, so they have to go a little conservatively when it comes to ODIs for sure. They need someone like Hardik bowling, say maybe 5 or 6 overs to get that balance right. So I'll be watching keenly to see when Hardik starts bowling. I think that will definitely change that balance. That all rounder is definitely a concern at the moment when you look at that playing 11. And when you look at Australian bowling attack, it's looking nicely balanced. And with Smith and Warner coming back, that batting lineup also going to be strengthened. So I think this series is not going to be easy series for India, looking at the home advantage for Australian team. But they are more than capable to get things together. But what they need is someone really putting the hand up and starting this series well. I think not only from ODI's point of view, but looking at the Test series as well. They need their batters to come to form as soon as possible in the series.
Well, for now, the one person who always puts his hand up at this stage in the show is Joy Bhattacharya, whether he's on the show or not, because he's prepared with some brain teasers. We are still trying to figure out what's going to happen in the series, but Joy is already going to throw questions at us that are going to be testing the grey cells. So let's find out a Joy Factor question for today. And this one's an interesting one. Yuvraj Singh, Tatendra Taibu, Shikhar Dhawan, Cheteshwar Pujara. Seems like an eclectic mix of players. Which Kiwi is the next name on the list? Joy loves his lists. He really loves his lists, and he's got another one for you. So try and figure out which Kiwi is next on that list. For us, a little bit of a teaser. Michael Vaughan, Zaheer Khan, the My 11 Circle Badge of Honor. Remember, it's a different format now. We're looking 50 overs. Long way to think. First match of a series, Michael Vaughan. Are you willing to go first? How much will Australia make in their 50 overs? We don't even have a benchmark for the moment.
Oh, I think Sydney batting first, pretty good pitch. I think 322.
Whoa! Indian fans look away now. we all love Michael Vaughan, but there are a few people who are going, excuse me? But that's fine. That's your view, and I think it's pretty accurate when we see the history of the ground. Zaheer, are you going to be a little more patriotic than Michael is?
Has to be. Has to be. I think I'm going to back Bumrah and his form he has shown in IPL. Hope he continues with his form. Shami, the kind of form he's shown. So I'm going say 280.
280. I'm just going to go purely based on the quarantine. Remember, we showed you just two names in yellow, Mr. Stark, Manas Labuschagne. Everybody else is just getting up almost jet-lagged, unquarantined, walking out of their hotel room straight onto the middle. So I'm going to go 264, purely based on that. I could be
That's really
wrong.
Patriotic, Gautam.
Yeah, it's part of patriotism. It's partly the bubble. Having been in one myself, it can be difficult, but I think
I hope your prediction comes true.
Yeah, well, there you go. All I can say is we've got a big spread from 264 to 322, and Zaheer Khan nicely slotted in between. We'll see what happens there. It's the first match, so we really don't know how the pitch will play out. And when I say pitch, it's not just the surface, it's everything else in and around the game that we've had our pleasure of talking about. Thank you very much, Michael Vaughan. Thank you, Zaheer Khan. Of course, we're going to keep bringing to you everything that we normally bring. Cricbuzz Combox will be back in the 15th over and the 35th over. For now, we will see you in the 15th over. This has been our first edition from Down Under of My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.